Big Meech once commanded untouchable respect on the streets. When news spread that he'd finally been released, fans expected nothing less than a triumphant return, complete with star-studded events, massive deals, and unwavering support from the biggest names in hip-hop. But instead of a hero's welcome, Meech found himself caught in a messy web of broken promises, canceled plans, and severed friendships. How did one of the most talked-about figures in modern street lore end up losing his biggest opportunity before it even began? And why do so many people point to Rick Ross's smooth talk and 50 Cent's relentless maneuvering as the catalyst for Meech's downfall? Stick around, because this story has more twists than anyone saw coming. In the next few minutes, we're diving headfirst into the controversies, betrayals, and rumors that have turned Big Meech's post-prison comeback into a public spectacle. But here's the real question simmering beneath all the headlines. Is Big Meech responsible for his own downfall, or did his so-called allies set him up for a disaster that would ultimately leave him stranded? When news first broke that Big Meech was coming home, social media lit up with excitement. Everyone assumed Meech would glide effortlessly back into the game, the same way he once held court over entire cities. After all, his name still carried a legendary aura. Who wouldn't want to be part of his next big move? It wasn't just the average rap fan who celebrated. Industry insiders gossiped about potential business ventures, collaborations, and new content for the BMF brand. Some speculated we'd see Meech helming a major record label or expanding his legacy through TV deals, especially given the success of 50 Cent's BMF series. Others claimed there'd be lavish parties rivaling anything from his old days, bottles popping all night, VIP sections packed with A-list celebrities, and cameras capturing every second. But beneath the surface, there were quiet warnings that times had changed drastically. The industry Meech once knew had shifted. Social media had replaced many of the old methods of building hype, and alliances were often built on shaky ground. Even the larger business climate was different. Streaming platforms dominated music distribution, and major investments demanded squeaky clean reputations. Skeptics wondered if Meech's flamboyant style would clash with a more cautious industry. Still, none of that wavered Meech's resolve. At least, not in public. He acted confident, as if he could pick up right where he left off. Yet rumors began circulating about money troubles. Could he really make a return on his own? Or did he need a heavyweight ally to push him back onto the main stage? One of the first signs that Meech might be scrambling behind the scenes came when whispers started about potential friction with 50 Cent. On the one hand, 50 had transformed the BMF story into a successful TV series, providing an income stream for Meech's family. On the other hand, stories abounded that Meech's camp had burned through large sums of money, possibly the very funds 50 provided. Still, nothing was confirmed, so fans clung to the hope that Meech and 50's relationship would remain solid. Yet the moment Meech linked up with Rick Ross, the entire conversation took a turn. Ross was loud, flashy, and full of big talk about rebuilding the empire. He presented himself as Meech's new champion, but for many who'd watched the rap game for years, that sudden alliance felt too convenient. Long before Rick Ross entered the picture, 50 Cent staked his claim on the BMF narrative. He produced a high-profile TV show chronicling Meech's life story, brought Lil Meech on board for a breakout acting role, and funneled millions of dollars into the project. In the beginning, it was a win-win. The show thrived on Meech's street legacy, and Meech's family received legitimate streams of income. Then the rumors started. Word spread that 50 had fronted up to $5 million toward the BMF family's legal and personal bills. If true, that was a staggering investment, not just in the story, but in the people behind it. Eventually, the question arose. If so much money had been pumped in, why was Meech still struggling financially upon release? Some speculated that the funds were mismanaged. Others insisted that everyday expenses plus legal fees ate up the bankroll. Still others whispered that certain individuals in Meech's circle were living large, spending cash on lavish trips and flashy purchases, leaving Meech himself with almost nothing. 50, never shy about making his thoughts known, began implying on social media that he felt betrayed. He posted cryptic messages referencing ungrateful people and folks who forget who put them on. For a while, it seemed like Meech might still be able to smooth things over with 50. After all, loyalty and brotherhood were central themes in the BMF saga. But the tipping point came when Meech appeared publicly with Rick Ross, a figure who'd traded barbs and lawsuits with 50 for years. It wasn't just a casual photo op. Meech and Ross were spotted together in a way that suggested a deeper business relationship, one with actual money on the line. For 50, who had a personal history of feuding with Ross, this felt like a stab in the back. From his perspective, he'd poured resources into the BMF franchise, only to have its figurehead sidle up to a man who'd openly disrespected him. The internet exploded with commentary. Some defended Meech, arguing that he had the right to branch out, especially if 50's money had dried up. Others accused him of disloyalty, pointing out that 50 was the only one who gave him a legitimate platform right out of prison. As tensions soared, the stage was set for a showdown. No one quite realized how damaging that showdown would be, especially for Meech. Rick Ross has a knack for commanding attention. When he steps into any situation, he arrives with a brand of opulence that's hard to ignore. Stacks of cash, luxury vehicles, and declarations of self-made success. So, when Meech needed a lifeline and 50 seemed out of the picture, Ross appeared to be the perfect solution, at least on the surface. Ross pitched grand ideas for Meech's comeback. He spoke of tours, events, and possibly a big-budget film that would tell the real BMF story. Interviews, social media posts, and behind-the-scenes chatter all painted Ross as Meech's new champion, ready to reinstate him as a force in hip-hop culture. Yet even in these early stages, some observers noticed red flags. Ross was known for publicly flexing alliances when it suited him, only to drift away once he achieved his personal goals. Critics pointed to his history of showy feuds and quick business maneuvers. Could this really be a genuine partnership, or was Meech stepping into a trap laid by someone who thrived on hype? Nevertheless, Meech couldn't afford to be picky. The finances at home were apparently dire. Reports suggested that both Meech and his family desperately needed an infusion of cash to cover living expenses. Perhaps it made sense to chase any opportunity, even one that might offend 50. And from Ross's perspective, the chance to partner with Big Meech, a legendary figure in his own right, was a marketing goldmine. So Ross wasted no time announcing a benefit concert aimed at celebrating Meech's return. He boasted that it would be an all-star affair featuring major names who would show up for the culture. Fans across social media chimed in, excited to see what a Rick Ross by Big Meech collaboration might look like. The anticipation was sky high, with tickets reportedly selling at a brisk pace. But what few people realized was the precarious foundation of this grand plan. While Ross trumpeted support, there were murmurs that not all artists were actually confirmed. Some big names, like Lil Baby, were rumored to be on shaky terms with Meech's circle. Additionally, 50 Cent's behind-the-scenes power and entertainment ran deeper than many assumed. If he decided to pull strings against Meech and Ross, there might be consequences none of them could predict. February 13th was supposed to mark a triumphant night. The stage was set at the Amarant Bank Arena. The lineup was teased as legendary, and Meech's fans were ready to celebrate his return in epic fashion. But mere hours before showtime, an official statement from the venue shook everything to the core. Due to unforeseen circumstances, tonight's show has been canceled. Refunds will be provided at the point of purchase. The news spread like wildfire. Social media erupted with confusion, anger, and conspiracy theories. Some folks insisted that 50 Cent had pulled strings to sabotage the event, leveraging his industry connections to scare away key performers. Others blamed Ross for failing to properly secure the lineup or handle logistics. Then, there were whispers that the arena had concerns about security, attendance, or compliance issues. Meanwhile, 50 wasted no time pouring fuel on the fire. He posted about the cancellation on Instagram with a sly caption implying that he had absolutely nothing to do with it, while simultaneously encouraging people to keep calling his phone. For someone who claimed innocence, he sure looked pleased with the outcome. Then came the revelations that multiple artists, like Lil Baby and possibly others, had already planned to skip the event. Some cited scheduling conflicts, but insiders suspected they wanted to distance themselves from a shaky situation. Word also spread that a blackballing campaign could be in play, orchestrated by 50 or his associates. If true, that meant no major label or artist wanted to be on the wrong side of 50's wide-reaching influence. But the most devastating blow was the effect on Meech. In one fell swoop, he lost whatever upfront investments had been poured into the concert. Ticket buyers demanded refunds, sponsors withdrew, and the entire fiasco tarnished his image as a viable player in the industry. Even if 50 didn't directly cause the cancellation, his gloating post made it clear that Meech was losing a power struggle he might never recover from. Ross too faced criticism, but he quickly pivoted. Instead of offering a heartfelt apology or a robust explanation, he posted a brief video acknowledging the cancellation before pivoting to promote his own car show and club appearances. The abrupt shift made it seem like he never truly cared about Meech's comeback, fueling speculation that the entire concert idea was a self-serving stunt. In the wake of the canceled concert, Meech's financial woes intensified. There were no quick refunds for any expenses he had already put down. Deposits to vendors, venue costs, and promotional expenses all added up, even though the event never went on. Fans who had purchased tickets were left disappointed, and social media was flooded with complaints and demands for accountability. Suddenly, Meech's big chance at re-entering the game was gone. Gone was the promise of a flashy on-stage reunion with top artists. Gone was the potential for media buzz that might have reignited his brand. And gone was the momentum he desperately needed to prove that he was still relevant. Ross, on the other hand, seemed immune to the fallout. While Meech's loyal supporters blamed Ross for ditching Meech when things got rough, Ross shrugged it off, offering only generic statements like "business is business" and touting the idea that people shouldn't take business decisions too personally. Critics roasted him for appearing indifferent to the damage done to Meech's prospects. Meanwhile, 50 Cent capitalized on the fiasco for his own amusement, posting sly updates, reposting memes, and highlighting rumors about Lil Baby or other artists pulling out. He even circulated a GoFundMe link, joking that Meech now needed charity to cover a pricey Airbnb. Whether or not 50 was directly responsible for the concert's downfall, he relished the opportunity to twist the knife. All of this spotlighted how quickly the industry can turn on someone who seems to be losing. When Meech first came home, he had a golden aura. Everyone wanted to be associated with a legend. But after one major public misstep, people backed away. Beyond the public humiliation, Meech also had to watch the potential revenue from the canceled concert evaporate, leaving him in an even tougher predicament than before. His family, who once relied on 50's BMF series earnings, now found themselves with fewer options. 50 was openly threatening to stop future seasons or reduce Meech's role. The ripple effects spread wide. Executive producer credits, cameo opportunities, brand deals tied to the show, everything was at risk if 50 decided to pull the plug for good. Online chatter erupted with theories about how this fiasco really took shape. A vocal segment of Meech's audience believed Ross engineered the entire fiasco for publicity. They argued that Ross never intended to pull off a grand concert, but merely needed the spectacle to promote himself, from his clubs to his upcoming events. Others put the blame squarely on Meech, pointing out that he'd burned bridges with 50 by turning to a known rival. If Meech had stayed loyal, they reasoned, he could have quietly negotiated more funding or additional episodes for the BMF show. Now, not only did he lose 50's support, but he also got played by Ross, who walked away unscathed. In the midst of these accusations, a new question surfaced. Was Meech deliberately set up to fail so Ross could demonstrate his own power or settle a score with 50 Cent? Some fans speculated that Ross might have wanted to show the world he could hijack BMF's story and steal attention away from 50's TV series. If that was the plan, it worked on some level. People couldn't stop talking about the canceled concert. Yet from Meech's perspective, he'd been promised the moon, only to watch everything crumble. All the big talk about helping Meech get back on his feet evaporated the moment things got tough. Instead of fighting for a rescheduled date or working on a new plan, Ross retreated to his own brand promotions. Meanwhile, 50 Cent stood on the sidelines, effectively saying, "I told you so." On social media, he continued to drop hints that he knew more about Meech's finances and personal entanglements than people realized. Some fans wondered if there was a deeper game at play, like 50 wanting Meech to come crawling back, only to reject him publicly and inflict maximum humiliation. Whichever version of events you believe, one truth stands out. Big Meech is caught in a vicious cycle of alliances, each of which seems to promise salvation, but ends up costing him more credibility in the long run. Despite all the chaos, some observers aren't ready to count Meech out just yet. For one, he still has a significant fan base, especially among people who idolize the BMF legacy. Documentaries, interviews, and behind-the-scenes stories about BMF continue to attract views and generate buzz. In a social media-driven era, that sort of name recognition can be converted into new business opportunities, if managed correctly. Rumors are floating around that Meech might be considering an independent documentary or possibly a feature film separate from 50's series. Ross himself hinted at producing a BMF movie, but given the canceled concert, that plan feels shaky at best. Could another major director or producer step in? Possibly, but the industry is cautious. Investors want assurance that they'll see returns, and Meech's current drama might scare them off. Then there's the question of loyalty. Can Meech rebuild trust with 50, or is that relationship beyond repair? If he could somehow patch things up, the BMF series might continue for additional seasons, providing a steady income stream. But 50 has made it crystal clear that he feels betrayed, and reconciliation doesn't appear likely, at least not publicly. One possible avenue is a smaller-scale comeback. Meech might focus on building a personal brand through interviews, paid appearances, and merchandise that capitalizes on BMF nostalgia. While not as lucrative as a major TV or movie deal, it could provide enough momentum to keep Meech's name relevant. Over time, if he demonstrates a more stable approach, perhaps new opportunities would arise. However, the reality is that hip-hop's gatekeepers often close ranks around individuals who lose public favor. If 50 continues to throw shade, and if Ross remains hands-off, it may be tough for Meech to secure the kind of large-scale project that once seemed within reach. The fact that the entire fiasco played out so publicly only complicates matters. When drama unfolds online in real time, it sticks in people's minds. The one factor Meech has going for him is the enduring mystique of his old reputation. As long as people are curious about the real story behind BMF, he has a platform, no matter how shaky. The question is whether he can harness that interest in a productive way, or if the window of opportunity has already passed. Big Meech's planned comeback started with sky-high promises and ended with one of the most humiliating cancellations in recent hip-hop memory. Rick Ross swooped in like a savior, talking big about mega concerts and lavish support, only to disappear once the storm rolled in. 50 Cent, the man who once championed Meech's narrative, savored every moment of this downfall, making it crystal clear that he felt double-crossed and relished watching Meech scramble. Now Meech finds himself at a crossroads. The path he chooses next could define whether he resurfaces as a genuine power player or fades into the backdrop as another cautionary tale of what happens when street legends clash with cutthroat industry politics. Can he pivot toward a more stable, long-term plan, or has he already burned every bridge to the point where the only remaining option is to fly solo? If there's one lesson here, it's that not every glimmer of support is genuine. In a world where business relationships can change overnight, Meech might have discovered the hard way that survival demands loyalty to the right allies, and caution when it comes to sworn enemies of your biggest benefactors. But this saga is far from over. Rumors swirl that Meech is still trying to carve out a new lane, while 50 continues to hold the reins on the BMF TV universe. As for Rick Ross, who knows what fresh idea he'll dream up next? And whether Meech will even be part of it? What do you think? Did Meech orchestrate his own downfall, or did he get caught in the crossfire between two industry titans who saw him as a pawn in their ongoing feud? Time might reveal a few more hidden pieces to this puzzle, especially if Meech finally decides to speak openly about everything that went wrong. Until then, we're left to speculate whether his story will ever find the glorious rebirth fans once anticipated, or if the BMF legend will remain overshadowed by this canceled concert calamity. Either way, the drama offers a stark reminder. In this game, you can rise to breathtaking heights one moment, only to plummet the next. And when the dust settles, the people you thought had your back might already be onto their next hustle, leaving you with nothing but regrets and a long road back to the top.